welcome back to Anonymous Animators. Today we're reviewing Kung Fu Panda 2. We will get a bit spoilery in this 2011 film. With me is Emily.
Hey!
And this is our first episode with our new hardware. We just bought some new microphone.
The last one died.
Yeah, it died, like, amazingly.
Just crash and burn into the sun.
The thing is, like, I couldn't figure out, I guess, what the problem was with a lot of my recordings, and I'm guessing it was now the mic, realizing now, because, I don't know if you can hear, but, like, each episode sort of gets a little bit worse and more echoey. And then just what we were trying to record one day, and we couldn't record anything. Like, it sounded like we were recording from a million miles away. It was terrible. So we got this fancy new mic. It's I
Snowball, right?
Yeah, I think it sounds a hell of a lot better than what we had, at least.
It is a literal blue ball.
Yeah, and so hope you guys enjoy the new quality of the show. This is the first step in a couple of steps we're taking to up the ante on the show. We're going to add video soon, intro music. I might actually even use intro music for this one. So if I did, you heard it. If I didn't, then you probably heard Kung Fu Panda music. We'll only know after I've done editing. All right, so...
I still need to finish the thumbnail for the Zootopia review. My bad.
Well, that'll probably be out by the time this comes out anyway.
I hope so.
All right, so... Yeah, first impressions of the film. Do you want to start?
Yeah, like I mentioned in the Kung Fu Panda 1 review, I hadn't seen the second one. It was just one of those things, like, I remember liking the first one okay, and I didn't really have that big of a drive to see the second one.
Yeah.
It was like one of those things that
Any particular reason? Like, did it just not interest you?
Yeah, not really. There wasn't... Like, I guess, as I think we talked about this last time about, sequelitis, where we just didn't frickin' want to watch sequels because we grew up with these really terrible sequels that were always awful.
I think for particularly, I mean, I wouldn't say too much, like, even before our generation didn't suffer too much of it, even though they sort of experienced it too. But we got a lot more... like direct-to-TV movies, or
direct-to-DVD.
Yeah, sorry, direct-to-DVD.
VHS, for in our case.
And it was, you would, like, watch it, like, you'd watch The Lion King 2, and you wouldn't be as impressed by it. Or you'd watch Aladdin 2, and you'd be like, okay. Whereas now, I think industries are... Look, whenever I see a sequel, like, I'm like, they're making a sequel. I'm like... that's I feel it. I'm like, I don't want to watch the sequel. But lately, outside of a couple, I haven't really been that disappointed, really.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about the Ice Age series or the Madagascar series. They're fun movies. Like, they keep the spirit of that movie. It's not like a direct-to-DVD movie where it feels a bit or whatever. And even saying that, like, making TV has grown a long way lately, right? I mean, look at what the amazing TV shows we're getting nowadays compared to like 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah, geez.
And it's grown. It's like to the point where it's, again, like a lot of podcasts I listen to where like directors will talk about like, yeah, you didn't want to be a TV director or something because it wasn't as glamorous as being a movie director.
Oh, that's the same for being a television star. You don't want to be a television star because it wasn't as glamorous.
Yeah, but now it's on the other end, right? So even making for TV movies can still actually be really good nowadays. But we've still got that bad taste in our mouths still from like a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I felt the same way when Kung Fu Panda 2 comes out. Like with the announcements of any sequel movie, I'm always like, this is going to be bad. And then I watch it and I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I actually would. I would go so far as to say I actually enjoyed this one more than I did the first one. Mm-hmm. Just because everything felt like the stakes were higher, everything felt a lot more epic, like the scenery. Like, they put a lot of love and care into the scenery in the first one, and then the second one, it was like, okay, make that but bigger. It felt like...
Yeah, and that's also what I was, like, wanted to try and allude to, where... You've got all these resources. You've got, like, with Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon is a little bit of an exception to this rule.
Yeah.
Kung Fu Dragon is to animation what the Mongols were to history.
Dragon?
Kung Fu Dragon, How to Train Your Dragon. That's what I meant. That's what I said. I'm going to totally edit that. You're gonna look like the weird one. but in How to Train Your Dragon, like they redid everything in How to Train Your Dragon too, right? They
did a whole,
overhauled everything.
Yeah, they did whole new rigs, whole new software. Like, it was a completely different beast, and it really shows.
I hope you guys can't hear the dog in the background. He's just trying to get our attention.
He's being a baby right now.
And if you can't hear it, I apologize for eluding you. But he is Waffles, our little corgi dog.
Yeah, he's about 4 months now, and he is the biggest butt.
Yeah, he's been very demanding, but we're trying. Anyhow. So I would imagine like they had all the resources and they just made it bigger and better.
Yeah.
You know, and that to me is a valid excuse to make a sequel, as long as also the sequel is a good story, right?
Yeah,
you know, I mean, and it's not to say that this was completely just a reusing of old assets. I mean, there's the new villain.
Yeah.
You know, there's just new characters all around.
The new villain kind of surprised me because, you know, the first one was pretty predictable. It was a leopard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it was pretty, you know, that's pretty predictable. It's like a prey animal. It's like, yeah, you don't even think twice about it. Yeah, you use the prey animal as the villain because they're prey. But then, you know, opening of this one, it's like peacocks. Peacock is the villain, and I'm going, what?
Yeah, and just like, I mean, the overall design like fits that villain archetype really well. And I think conceptually this movie does, you know, it introduced, like, it's still a very classic kung fu story, but it definitely starts getting into that American storytelling a bit more too.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, yeah.
Because there's, like, in the first one, there's that whole chosen one idea, but in this one, it's now, like, sort of like, oh, he falls, and then he gets back to the...
It was sort of a Moses story. Like, straight up, you know, you know, the whole thing about, like, you know, he is the last, you know, like, kind of like, there's a prophecy in which, so the evil peacock is like, you know, it's not good enough that he gets to rule an entire kingdom, you know, just by his birthright. It's like, no, I have to rule the world. And his parents are like, don't be an asshole. And the peacock is like, I'm gonna be an asshole.
Yeah.
Then there's a prophecy that a warrior of black and white is going to defeat him, which in China, what else could that be but a panda?
Yeah.
You know, if we're gonna use black and white literally. So of course, kills all the pandas.
Or tries to.
I mean, except for, you know, the one that's like sent by a delivery company in a box of turnips.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it ends up being raised by his goose of a father. And, I don't know. I mean, I kind of liked that, like, because I think that was a big question mark in the first one, was why is this panda being raised by a goose?
Yeah.
And I think they kind of allude to it that, yeah, of course he's adopted. Why wouldn't he be adopted? This makes no biological sense.
Well, I mean, everybody in the world obviously accepts that he's adopted. Like, the only one who was surprised by the news was Poe himself.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw, like, he's like, just found out that my dad isn't my real dad. And he, like, opens up his eyes, is like, yeah, huh, right? And Tigress is like, oh, that must have been a surprise for you. Like,
I question your version of reality a little bit in this moment.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's nice to get a little bit of backstory. It's also nice to not get, like, I guess, because again, in the first one, the Chosen One concept is, he stumbles on it, but it's not like the usual Chosen One where it's like, you know, 1,000 years of prophecy have led up to this point. And even in this one, where he is technically the Chosen One to defeat this big bad guy, he doesn't know it, and he doesn't really accept it, and like, even towards the end, it's like, he barely sort of comprehends it, you know, and I guess that's part of him just kind of being an idiot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, he always steps up when he needs to. Which, in these type of stories, they have to. Like, the hero, like, no matter how goofy and stupid he is, will come through in the end.
I guess that's kind of why people find him so charming, is because he, you know, he doesn't let it go to his head. Like, even in the first one, he just sort of denies the entire time, I can't be the Dragon Warrior. Look at me. I'm a fat panda.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even now, constantly, like, you bring that, like, his humility is constant throughout this film, too, where he's just always, like, so happy to be a kung fu master.
Yeah.
You know, he's, like, so glad that he gets to fight with the Furious Five and Master Shifu, and then these new guys that come in, you know, like a Croc and...
It was an ox.
A Croc and Ox, like these two, like, great grandmasters that he also is, like, he's fanboying over every little detail.
Yeah.
You know, like, when he gets handcuffed, you know, he's like, oh man, these 8-point pressure puncture handcuffs, these are the best, you know, he's just geeking out constantly.
Yeah.
And if I remember, which we'll probably review at some point too, but the shorts, like, he definitely fanboys a lot more in the shorts too, especially towards the Furious Five. You know, like, he knows all their statistics and, you know, he, like, just gets obsessed with them.
I guess it's kind of like, I guess as an animator, I can kind of appreciate that, you know, where you get to, like, you know, like, even as a kid, I remember watching, like, all the special features and, like, the extras that they would put on television as, like, a preview for the upcoming film is like, and this is how we do animation. And, like, I think by the time I was 10, I could already repeat the process. It's like, oh yeah, they do the drawings on the paper, and then they put it on the cells, and then they paint the cells, and then they photograph it, and that's how they do animation. And everyone, and, like, all the adults are like, how do you know that?
Yeah, you become
I assumed it was with wizards.
Yeah, wizards, and they pointed at things, and the computer did all the work. You know,
despite the fact that, you know, no, they didn't.
I mean, computers technically do take a lot of the manual labor out of it, but they still
takes, like, a lot of the grunt work out.
Yeah, I mean, as an animator too, like, just sitting for one day, and you get home and you've been animating all day, and your brain is just so tired because you're constantly running cycles in your head when you're drawing, right? You're like, does it flow this way? Does the arc work this way? Does the secondary animation work this way? And you know.
I don't know about you, but I get stupidly hungry the harder the scenes are.
Well, I mean, that's how it is with you know, the more your brain works, the more energy, I guess, you're burning.
It's like, oh, I have to really plan this scene out. Oh, if the character is this big on screen, I should size him this big on screen, and where are their feet so that I can perspective properly. And then all of a sudden it's like 2:00 and I'm like, I am so hungry
and I'm so behind still. But yeah, so, like, it's great to, like, fanboy over that stuff, and it's cool to see him remain humble throughout, you know, like, again, he's never, and you'd also expect that, you'd kind of expect the whole, oh, I'm better than you, or I'm the Dragon Warrior, but he never does that, and I like that, and we have, at this point, we haven't seen Kung Fu Panda 3 yet, but we'll probably watch it soon.
After The Little Prince, I really want to see The Little Prince.
But the point being is, I hope that doesn't change, because I really like that part of him.
Yeah.
Because I don't want that old story of, oh, he became a cocky bastard, and then he became humble again. It's like, okay, we've seen that story. See what else you can do. And that's one thing I like about the Kung Fu Panda series in general, is that for the most part, it's its own sort of story. It doesn't... I mean, there are some things that are to be expected, like they're going to win.
Yeah.
They're going to have trials. They're going to be scared. They're going to, like... Because, I mean, if you look at the highs and lows of the story of the second one, pretty much similar to the highs and lows of the story of the first one. You know, he gets introduced to a new concept. In the first one, it's Kung Fu. In this one, it's inner peace. The big bad gets introduced. The big bad returns. The Furious Five can't really handle it. And then he comes and saves the day. You know, it's pretty much exactly the same. So in the first one, he comes to save the day by defeating Tai Lung. In this one, he deflects the cannonballs.
Yeah.
Which is one of my favorite sequences. I just love, because I love color and all things color, right? And just watching, like, the fireballs or the cannonballs like spinning and sparkling out like that, and then him just, like, moving them around. I don't know, I remember when watching it in the theater, because I watched it for the first time when it first came out.
Oh.
And I remember watching it in the theater, and I just remember thinking it was so much more extravagant. Like, the second time around, it didn't look as impressive. But I remember being impressed by it the first time I saw it.
Well, probably because you saw it on a bigger screen.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I mean, there wasn't as much colour as I would have liked. Also, towards the end, the fact that the peacock still dies, I was kind of hoping he'd get retribution, even though I knew he was going to die. Like, rewatching it now, I was like, nah, I was kind of hoping he'd get some sort of retribution. In the sense of, like, you know, he's like, okay, so towards the end, like, Poe's like, no, you don't have to be a bad guy, type of thing.
Yeah.
and he's like, you can choose who you want to be. And the the peacock turns on him and like attacks him. He's like, this is what I choose, and then like attacks him enough that like the building comes and collapses on top of him. And I was kind of hoping, like while watching, I was like, you know what I would have liked is Poe saving him, and then him sort of like, because like instead of like you will be defeated or like the prophecy should have been something like you will be stopped by a warrior in black and white, meaning your reign of terror will be ended by a warrior in black and white. Not necessarily you'll be killed by a warrior of black and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like he saves him. He's like, why did you save me? It's because, you know, whatever. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to turn the other cheek. And then obviously not being the ruler anymore, because why would he be the ruler? No one would accept him.
Yeah. I don't know. That's I guess the problem with that ending is that it ends up making the movie even longer. And from my understanding of film, you have to pay for however many minutes you have. So I guess they had a pretty big budget for this film, and the payback was amazing.
Yeah.
I think it was like, shoot, I'm gonna have to look up the numbers. I just had them. The budget was $150 million. The box office was $665.7 million. Mm-hmm. So they made like 6 times their money back, right? But
which is again why 3 is coming up, because.
Well, I think they knew they were gonna make a 3. I mean that last scene.
Yeah, there's the last sequence where it pans over China or trucks over China, and then you see a panda, and he's like, "My son is alive."
And it's like, you know, suddenly you just see this tiny village of pandas, and it's like, oh, of course they didn't all die.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not implied really that they died. It looks like it's implied that they died, but if you watch the sequences, they don't ever really die. They kind of just keep running away.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, like, because again, a kid-friendly movie, right? You also want to have.
I think the mom's dead, though. I think it was
so?
pretty well, because you know she was being chased after the like 3 or 4 wolves, right?
Mm.
And,
yeah. Okay. I mean,
we'll see the 3rd one, and we'll see. I guess. I hope not. I hope not.
Yeah. Yeah. So outside of all of that, the things So now this is the part where it gets the things that I didn't like about the movie. One, the first time I watched it, I felt very strongly about this. The second time I watched it, I sort of understood it a bit more, but I still don't like it as much. Is that even though Poe has gotten much better in his kung fu, he has a real hard time fighting, and so I suppose the idea there is because he's struggling with himself. And he hasn't found that inner peace that he can't really maintain the fights.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I could understand that against, like, say, against the peacock or against some of the stronger kung fu masters. But he does it against, like, the wolves as well, you know, like just barbarians who just swing their, you know, like they've got, like, no training whatsoever. They're just, you know, sword-swinging lunatics. And, like, he has a hard time fighting them. And I'm like, he's just a clumsy oaf in this one in that regards. Like, he doesn't have the skill that he was using to fight, I guess, Tai Lung from the first one. But that being said, since I'd watched the first one pretty recently, Tai Lung gets defeated by his, like, goofy fighting style anyway. It's like, boom, boom. Like, he fights more, like, they call him the Dragon Warrior, which I guess is just the thing, but he fights more Drunken Master style, you know, just, like, bounces and wobbles around.
I think the idea is
But I guess you can't say Drunken Master in a kid's movie.
I think the idea is more about, like, just because the only way that Poe was able to even learn kung fu was to do it his own way. So I guess that it's the implication is that this is just his style. This is much in the way that the tigress uses tiger style. The monkey uses monkey style, mantis uses mantis style. This is panda style. It's drunken master style, right?
Which is, I mean, like, you look at, like, a lot of games, like, I'll use World of Warcraft, I guess, as an example. Like, the pandas in there, they drink, you know, like, they're drinking out of a giant barrel, and it's heavily implied as alcohol. But yeah, the idea is, like, their kung fu style would be drunken master. And it's not like you can have a dragon really in the thing. I guess the idea is the Dragon Warrior defeat. Like, it makes sense that Tai Lung would be the Dragon Warrior because he was so ferocious, and dragons are implied to be super ferocious. I mean, you take any historical reference to a dragon, like historical, I put in big inverted commas. They're destroyers. They're not friendly, really.
It depends on what mythology you're talking about, because...
Well, give me a mythology where they aren't like that.
I was always under the impression that, like, in Eastern mythology, they were more of luck.
Oh, seeing one is lucky, but no, they're not friendly towards humans.
Well, I mean, okay.
Yeah, it's like implied that they're lucky in that. Yeah, it's like you see a unicorn and it's lucky, but also unicorns in Western folklore, like, they're not friendly to humans. Like,
especially if you're a virgin.
Yeah, if you're a virgin female, they're gonna take you away. And
don't listen to the propaganda girls. Kill all the unicorns.
yeah. It's the creatures have definitely been romanticized a lot more. And again, they're just folklore. I get it, but the original idea is dragons are very ferocious, very unfriendly. They destroy cities. In fact, they look upon humans as insects. For the most feeling. Like, there's very few dragons in folklores that don't feel that way.
I'm gonna have to do some brushing up on my mythology. But yeah, because I guess I was, I don't know, maybe it was just the books I was reading. Because I read a lot of, like, I did read a lot of horoscope like books, because that really interested me for a brief period of my life. It still kind of does, but not as much. So I guess I'll have to look into more dragon mythology.
Well, okay, I'm gonna get back into more like of what I. So basically, I would have expected more of Poe, just to have been a bit more, like, instead of just common bandit monsters. I don't know. Like, I get it that they have to make him struggle. I get that from the story standpoint, but for the sake of me being pulled out of the realism of it, like, to keep suspending my disbelief, I would have liked to have seen him been, which he is, like, in the beginning of the film, he's very skilled. He's a very skilled fighter, but he sort of, he just gets goofier. And I think where I think what happens is they sacrifice his competency for comedy. They're like, okay, well, we can make him a goofy idiot here. Let's do it. And I'm like, yeah, but he's supposed to be a kung fu master at this point. It's like, he wouldn't do that if, like, even at the way he trained. Because think of it this way. Look at how he defends the village, right? And he's like, boom, boom, boom. He's like doing it very naturally, and it's great. And there's some good choreography in there. And then look when he has to do stealth. And then the whole gag is like, oh, he's just a fat panda that can't hide.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I mean, I get it, haha, comedy. But for the sake, it took me out of my suspension of disbelief, let me put it that way.
I don't know if I feel the same way, because I have to keep in mind that, this is a audience, like, I'd assume Kung Fu Panda's audience is mostly made up of children.
I would imagine the 9 to, or even younger, like, say the 5 to 14-year-old gap.
Yeah, like, so
if even that high.
So I think DreamWorks does still, at least until recently, understood that, you still kind of want to keep the kids, entertained.
No, I understand it from a story perspective. I do. What I'm explaining is, like, my suspension of disbelief, like, why I didn't like it.
Well, that's because you're a filthy adult.
Yeah, and watched too many movies, and I'm so angry at the world and jaded.
Yes, you are.
And then the other thing, him getting his, what was his whole goal, was to get inner peace.
Yeah.
Him getting it like quickly like that, which they do make a reference to. Like, Shifu is like, oh, you seem to have gotten inner peace at such a young age. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess the joke is, like, he would just manage to, because it's, again, a story mode. Like, he has to get the inner peace to solve the problem. Now that he has it, it's like, oh, well, congratulations, And so I'm also curious, because inner peace is such a strong thing for a person to have. It does take years to get. Years of meditation, years of struggle. And when you sort of learn to let go, that's great. But it's not something that, like, a 14-year-old or even a 20-year-old can just really do. It takes a while. I pride myself from my meditations, that I've learned how to, like, let go and remove the self. But there are still times where I get angry and annoyed, and it surprises me, because when it doesn't happen very often when I get angry, but when it does, I'm like, I'm surprised by it.
I'm surprised by it, because, I mean, you've never gotten angry at me, but...
But you've seen me get angry.
I have, and it always, like, I can only just sit there in disbelief. I'm like, huh. I mean, yeah, the thing that's happening sucks, but I'm just kind of surprised, because usually, but... I know your struggle, and I know it takes... You have a much longer fuse. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I suppose that's also, like, a natural thing, but... Yeah, it's. I didn't like that he got it so quickly. I would have liked it, like, maybe again, I would have liked a different solution, you know? Like, maybe he got, like, a partial, because, like, what are you going to do for the third one? What's going to be his trial? He has inner peace now. Like, he should just be calm and passive and just keep trying. You know, what, I mean, I haven't seen the third one yet, so I don't know, but I mean, I know the whole concept is behind his dad coming to find him.
Yeah, it's about, like, it's basically... You know, because in the second one they established that, you know, the pandas are essentially gone. Mm-hmm. So the third one is, now the pandas are coming back, and look at all these cute pandas.
Yeah. Looks like they'll be pandering to the audience. Never heard that joke before. I think I actually said that joke in the last one. In Kung Fu Panda 1 review.
I don't remember. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
but puns.
Yeah, so we have that, okay, and then there's also Master Shifu showing up. Like Master Croc and Master Ox, I get it. Like
that was a Deus Ex Machina if I ever saw one.
Yeah, and then he didn't even do anything, right? He shows up, he sort of knocks down a couple of dudes. They do the cool pose thing, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And then they get blown to bits, you know, by the cannon, and then he's just like floating in the water, and I'm like, huh, like what was the point of Master Shifu showing up? Like the Master Shifu's role up to that point was being the calm master, you know, taking over the turtle from the first movie's role. Yeah. But now he's not as aggressively as an aggressive fighter, and he came in, barely did anything. You would have thought that's where I think maybe he could have taken the role of the inner peace, like helped Poe come to terms with the type of thing. Is like, so Poe is getting his inner peace. He started getting it, but he hasn't completely understood it. And then him and Master Shifu could have maybe done something together to solve the problem. You know, like, he could have, like, captured the ball, passed it to Poe, and then Poe could have, like, bounced it back or thrown it back, or, you know, like, but you needed Master Shifu. So you see, like, there could have been a perfect puzzle piece for Master Shifu to fill. But they didn't. He brings in, he gets blown away, and then he has his line of...
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I guess the problem with it is that the problem I often find with these movies is that they sometimes focus too much on the titular character. Mm-hmm. Where
which they have.
It's like, yeah, I guess that's sort of this film series problem in general, is that it gives too much credit to Poe and doesn't allow for other characters to help him aside from like a quick pick-me-up, or, you know, just, you know, plant a seed in his head for him to continue down the path that will come back up, like the whole Shifu thing with inner peace. Like, he plants that seed very early on in his head, but isn't able to really do anything with it because it's like, now we gotta go fight this peacock, which, by the way, for as surprised as I was that the bad guy was a peacock, I'm very impressed with the visuals that they did for him. It was very much like, you ever see those, like, fan dances, you know, where women have the fans and they open them up and close them back up with... Yeah. It reminded me a lot of that, but with kick-ass kung fu moves.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was probably, like, the influence for sure. Because, I mean, he uses fan knives to fight. Yeah. So it's quite... I'm quite confident to say that's where his design and concept came from. And that makes me sad that he won't be in the third movie, because... Now, you know, I'm curious to see what next villain they'll come up with. You know, it's for the flack I'm giving it right now. Is, like I said earlier, I love the movie for a lot of other reasons. Well, I didn't love it. I mean, I enjoyed the movie. Mm-hmm. It's definitely not like a favorite all-time movie, but it's one I could definitely watch again, like, later. You know? Yeah. I mean, if we ever watch it with somebody who hasn't seen it, I'd be, like, more than happy to watch it again with them.
Yeah. I feel that way too. You know, it's not something that I mean, I definitely want to watch the third one more now. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
Yeah, just to complete that trilogy.
Yeah, just to kind of, like, tie a little nice bow on that thing.
I'm curious to see if they'll... didn't they make a Kung Fu Panda TV show? I kind of feel that they did. I know they've got the shorts,
I think it was just mostly the shorts that they did.
Okay, I'll double check. But now going on, the general look and feel of the movie. I mean, you brought up the point that the assets look like how much bigger the landscapes were and the assets and everything. The just the general. Firstly, we've got the 3D designscape, and then we've also got the new 2D short, like the little bits of 2D that they threw in there for his memories and everything.
Yeah,
that was like I really loved that a lot, especially when the first time I watched the film. Like thinking back, I was like, I just wish that was what the film looked like.
I kind of think a lot of people felt that way. I think that's why they did the shorts, is because it was like, hey, we can actually do 2D and not go too crazy with it. I guess the problem with the 2D style is that it is incredibly stylized.
Mm-hmm.
Though I don't know. I think it was actually...
It was fully animated. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I want to say it was actually Katzenberg who was like, 2D is dead, and Katzenberg is head of DreamWorks, so that's probably why.
But you see, that's always like the mentality of people with a lot of... that dog is driving me insane. That's the mentality of a lot of people in that regard. Like, I mean, there were people like, the personal computer is only a passing fad, and then there's like, the internet is a stupid medium, no, it'll never catch on. And so you get this too, and okay, sure, 2D animation's been around for like 100 years now, but it's an art style. It's like saying painting is unnecessary, or that pencil sketches are unnecessary. It's like, no, it's an art style that people still use, you know? Saying 2D animation is dead is like saying black and white film is dead. It's sure it's not as prevalent, but people still use it. You can still even shoot it digitally and put it in black and white for the artistic representation, because there's so much you can do. I mean, look at Sin City. Yeah, sure. And then there's a lot of indie films that use the black and white filter. No, it's a very short-sighted mentality. You know, that being said, this guy is very rich because of his short-sightedness, and it sort of upsets you. But yeah, it's definitely a thing that I just don't agree with.
Yeah, well, it's why I get upset I think I've talked about this in my in the Princess and the Frog review, which is I get really upset about when people say, I want more 2D films, and then they didn't see Princess and the Frog, and it's like, well, I can't help you there. If you want 2D to thrive, you're gonna have to see 2D films, no matter how bad they are.
Okay, well, I just found out the information here for the Kung Fu Panda TV show. It's called The Legends of Awesomeness.
What?
I have not seen it at all, but it's here apparently. It aired in 2011, so it was definitely around when Kung Fu Panda 2 came out.
I must have completely missed this.
Because I was pretty sure I saw it. I'm actually curious to see who the voice cast is, because it's never the same, right? As, I mean, like Jack Black's the Panda, and then I'm actually surprised with the show. It's definitely not as good as the two films. Animation is worse. But after hearing the catchy theme song, I was totally blown away. Okay, well, whatever. But I'm trying to look for like the guy who does like Poe's voice. Nonetheless, Mick Wingert, I guess.
Oh,
Poe.
it was on Nickelodeon. That's probably why I didn't see it.
76 episodes. It's funny because like you got like Carrie Walgren, who's supposed to be Angelina Jolie. James C is supposed to be Jackie Chan. Lucy Liu still retained Viper.
Wow.
At least for 45 episodes.
Good for her.
You know, and like, I mean, like, I get it. You can't, for TV, you can't hire, like, these huge name actors, which is still a sore point, which maybe one day when I get to interview a voice actor, I'll get to find their input about it, but it's still a thing that I don't like, the fact that they hire this named actor, like, oh, we got Jack Black to be the Panda voice, and it's like, okay, but you're literally, he's already got like $1 million of like money from his films. Why can't you hire a voice actor who dedicates their entire lives to being voice actors, you know?
Well, this is the hole that Hollywood digs themselves in constantly, which is, you know, they will build up these stars to fame and fortune, and then they think that, everyone wants to see these stars all the time, even though there are people who are better suited for the role, probably up and coming. I think we've talked about it before too, where it's like, people want something different other than the formula, but when something besides the formula comes out, no one goes to see it. So it's kind of on both sides.
Yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
We won't watch a movie if we don't recognize the name on the board. And then, all of a sudden, look at ScarJo right now, Scarlett Johansson. She is in everything. Everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I get it. I'm happy for her that she's getting a lot of work, and she is a very versatile actress.
Johnny Depp is another.
Yeah, Johnny Depp a while ago was in everything.
Just everything.
Even Mace Windu and Samuel L. Jackson at one point. I mean, there's a joke on Family Guy about Samuel L. Jackson being in everything to the point that he's even in all the porn. Like that. It was like they walk into a room and then they're filming porn, and so then I think it was Chris. He's like, "Oh, they're filming a movie in here. Is Samuel L. Jackson in it?" And one of the other guys is like, "This is a porn film. Of course Samuel L. Jackson's going to be in it. He's in everything." And it's, that's part of the gag. But yeah, it's just at one stage, it's like name recognition. And it's frustrating because only really indie will get away from that. But I'm not going to lie, sometimes indie films are just not that good. They become like the sort of, like a bit of a circle jerk sometimes. They're like, oh, look how edgy we are. And I mean, I know it's a very huge dismissal what I just said, but it's true. Like, I'll watch like a mainstream film and it's like, okay, we're just having fun. You can tell they're having fun with the movie.
Yeah.
And you get other like indie films, like I'm not gonna have one on the top of my head right now, but like I'm gonna take Donnie Darko. I don't know how much of that is really an indie film, but
I would file it under cult classic.
Yeah, it definitely had I enjoyed that film. It was really good. It was very clever. But at the same time,
I thought you didn't like depressing films.
Well, if it's clever enough, then I'll watch it. I don't like things being depressing for the sake of being depressing.
Okay.
Like I like Johnny Darko was it was clever, and plus I like time travel. So
I honestly liked how creepy it was. The freaking whole.
And that's part of it. But there is sort of a personal self gratification to it. Where they're like, "Ooh, look how deep and mysterious I can be," and I've never appreciated that. Like there's deep and mysterious done well, and then there's deep and mysterious where you can tell it's a 14-year-old's fan fiction. And sometimes is what kicks in. Not that Donnie Darko is that, but it's just one of the ones I can sort of think off the top of my head right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we got onto that topic, but yes,
we were talking about
Legends of Awesome is something we could definitely look into watching. There's 76 episodes, so
okay,
hasn't ended yet, so.
Really?
Yeah, it's from 2011 until, but there's no end date. So
okay.
Now with Kung Fu Panda 3 coming out, they might reboot it, or not reboot it, but add extra seasons.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, interesting. I mean, as long as it's not like Kung Fu Dino Posse, where we saw the first episode and we're like, yeah, I think I'm done.
Yeah, I don't know. I still want to review that, but we'll have to watch like a couple of episodes.
I don't think we're gonna watch the whole. If we do review it, we are not watching the whole series because it's almost painful.
Well, we got through Strange Magic, which we lost the episode recording for. So.
I know, and I'm so sad because that was one of the best ones.
Okay, I don't know. Well, is there anything else in the film that you really want to talk about? I mean, the music was pretty much what you expect for a Chinese-themed movie.
Well, it was Hans Zimmerman and John Powell. So. Yeah,
but I mean, it didn't stand out. It was thematically good for the movie, but it wasn't like
It did its job.
Yeah,
I think is yeah.
Which is what you. I mean, that's not a negative thing. It's just not like blown away. It's not going to win any. It wouldn't have won. It didn't. It won't win any awards. Let's put it that way.
Well, I guess like the best, like the least compliment that you can the absolute minimum you can expect when it comes to a soundtrack is to not notice it, because when you notice it, and if it's bad, then you've done a bad job.
Well, that's like with animation too, right? It's like if animation is done badly, then people notice it. Like the layman notices it. Whereas if animation is done well, the viewer will barely notice it. Like it's only really your animation fans and nitpickers that will like frame by frame it sometimes. Like, I mean, in this film, I barely noticed any animation mistakes. Or I didn't actually notice any animation mistakes, you know? Like,
well, I mean, you kind of hope that full-length films don't have...
yeah, they would... Well, I mean, we've seen... I mean, look at Frozen with the whole hair thing.
Oh,
that
yeah,
people, like, freaked out for a while.
Some people will defend it as like, oh, it was more of an artistic choice. It's like,
that really isn't an artistic choice. That was a limitation of the way everything was set up. The hair was too clunky. You know, it wasn't fibrous hair, like, perfectly, like, because, I mean, you can technically do her hair thing in real life, but that was a limitation. You didn't expect people to freeze frame it. You thought you could take a shortcut because you know what was happening in, like, at the dailies or whatever of Disney. They were, like, doing Frozen. They were like, that just doesn't look right. Try this. No, that doesn't look right. Okay, we have to do it this way. Break it. Do what you have to do. It's like, that's not something you can spend a million years on.
No.
And it was during a song, and it's a very fast motion. The only way anybody would ever have noticed it is if you frame by frame it. And that's what people do nowadays. They frame by frame every goddamn thing, looking for a reaction shot so they can put it on the internet and be cool.
Yeah.
And then that's movies now in a nutshell. It's not like, I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard, like, where I've worked, not currently, but just in general, people saying, "Oh, that'll make a good reaction image," and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I guess that's what you expect now.
I was pretty freaked out when I saw one of my my scenes on Pet Shop, where, like, some kid just uploaded the video and it just said best episode of Littlest Pet Shop ever. And it was one of the scenes I worked on, and I was like, oh, look at that. That's kind of weird. I didn't expect to see this coming, honestly. Yeah. I was just kind of like, oh, this scene is awesome. I'm so happy to be working on it. Oh, I'm glad the fans like it too. I feel like I fulfilled something, a part of me.
Well, it's also cool to see when I worked on Pirate Express, like towards the end of it, like some episodes had already been released, and some kid had already made an animated music video to it.
Yeah.
You know, and it was bad, but it was nice to see because you're like, oh, somebody's starting his inspiration. Yeah. At this point, and
you know what's really fun too is a friend of ours uploaded her new a new demo reel, a lot of the scenes that she did for Rick and Morty, and a lot of them were Tiny Rick. Yeah. And I saw the shirt at Hot Topic of Tiny Rick, and I was like, huh, look at that. I know the person who worked on that scene. I feel like I'm in another dimension right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different
I'd imagine it takes a while to kind of settle into.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I hope not. I like sort of feeling like, I know that, I worked on that, and it's fun.
I guess you never stop being a fanboy.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, especially if you want to keep growing too, right? In this industry at the very least.
Oh, heck yeah.
I mean, I would imagine even comic book guys are like always like just amazed by
other comic book guys?
Yeah, newer people or the people that they've loved forever, you know? So it's one of the things. Yeah, so yes, music-wise, I would imagine it. If you notice it and it's bad, it's very bad. But you can notice like really good sound. I don't know. I notice really good sound sometimes. Like I get like super excited by. I
definitely have a very specific taste when it comes to soundtrack music. I've noticed. Like it needs to move me.
Well, this isn't a musical.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, all the music that you find on the Kung Fu Panda soundtrack is the background music.
Yeah. Well, so one movie that in particular that is sticking out in my mind right now is the ending of Gravity. The soundtrack to that one, I remember just being very emotionally moved by it.
The movie?
Yeah.
The space movie?
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I had to watch it from like 20 feet back, but yes. I got very sick.
When did you watch it?
I was in Albuquerque with my mom.
You didn't want to watch it with me.
Because I knew it would.
Sad face.
Because I knew what you wanted to watch it in theater, and I knew I would.
Spice movie. I watched it in. I could have watched it again.
You saw how badly I did it. You saw how badly I did when we watched Cloverfield.
Yeah.
You think I'm gonna do much better with Gravity?
Well, I mean, it's not as shaky cam.
Yeah, but it's constantly. Basically, any movie with a camera that doesn't stop moving makes me sick. And that's a lot of films these days. I almost didn't make it through the film. I had to sit. Okay, so when I was watching Gravity, I was with my parents, and I was like in the kitchen, which is like in the next room, and even that still made me sick. That is how sensitive I am to moving cameras.
Okay.
So.
Whatever, it's fine. I see where I lie. I see my value.
Don't be such a butt. I watched Cloverfield with you.
Yeah. Okay, but you were saying the music with Gravity was like really, really good.
Yeah, especially the very last scene where she's like going through the Earth's atmosphere and lands in the ocean and like crawls out of the ocean, and she like stands on the ground, and there's the whole thing, and the music swells, and that was it was.
That's very good use of orchestra. I mean, let's just compare. Like, you look at Star Wars music, and it's Star Wars music.
Yeah.
This music is like, I mean, if you were a big fan of Kung Fu Panda, you would definitely know it's Kung Fu Panda music, but it could have also just been generic China music.
A soundtrack I do actually like is How to Train Your Dragon, but only specific. I'm not a huge fan of it, but there are a few songs that they do get to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty much done with my parts.
Also, Coraline's a good soundtrack.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I think I talked about everything.
Yeah, I think we pretty much summed up what we needed to get out. Mm-hmm. We'll probably review Kung Fu Panda 2 at some point.
3.
And 3.
Dang it.
Don't worry, I'll just edit those pieces together, and then it'll sound like you said 2. If there's any, feel free to message us. Firstly, is there anything you want to pimp out?
My usual. I got my DeviantArt, nearostreet.deviantart.com, my Tumblr, neuroticartist.tumblr.com.
It's all in the YouTube description if you're watching this on YouTube.
And we should really get back to our dog because he is being a huge bother.
Yeah. Well, it looks like the rain has stopped. We can probably take him out.
Okay, I think that'll help.
Okay, well, if you want to contact us, feel free, theanonymousanimators at gmail.com or at the Tumblr, anonymators... What? Tumblr.com /
No, it's just Tumblr. It's just anonymators.tumblr.com.
One of those things. It's at the bottom. Feel free to message us, ask us to review, or don't. Tell us you love us, because I love you. But like a brother.
Only platonically.
Platonically. I mean, if you wanna hang out, we could. I'm lonely.
Wesley.
Right, so thanks for listening, everyone.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.